That's a big jump. Well, what started out as a leak in a kitchen sink turned into a legal drama where homeowners feared foreclosure.
13 Chief Investigator Darcy Spears is pressing for answers in the case of a contractor who some customers say is using strong-arm tactics. Now, some are saying a change in state law is needed to protect homeowners.
Our investigation started nearly a year ago when several homeowners reached out to tell us that they were blindsided, hit by what they called misleading liens filed by a local repair company against their homes, demanding $10,000, even $20,000 for something as simple as a leaky faucet. The State Board of Contractors told us they were investigating when our reports first aired in February, but to date, they've taken no action. We got our first look at Julia Nikolova's dismantled kitchen in January. 10 months later,
actually nothing changed in my kitchen, and the reason why is because during the pandemic everything was closed.
Everything including contracting companies considered non-essential in the pandemic's early days.
I couldn't get an estimate for cabinets, or I couldn't find a contractor to actually perform the work during the pandemic, not to mention that it would expose me personally to risk from COVID.
Bulmer Restoration left Julia without a fully functional kitchen just before the pandemic hit. With COVID concerns and state restrictions keeping most people cooking at home, she was without some basics, like a pantry, forced to instead store food in boxes on the living room floor.
So I really had to use a primitive kitchen in my home for all this time period. So it is devastating for me and my family.
Julia's sink first sprung a leak around Christmas. As we reported in February, Ruderman Plumbing came to her home and said there could be a serious mold problem, so they brought in Bulmer Restoration. Both companies are owned by the same man, Eduardo Arredondo. Bulmer started tearing her kitchen apart, then stopped working and sent her this document via certified mail.
It says that we have to immediately pay $19,491. Otherwise, they are going to proceed with foreclosure on the mechanical lien on our property, and we have to pay this in 15 days.
It was a notice of intent to file a lien with the county recorder.
It's the most intimidating document that I've actually got in my life.
Bulmer also sent Julia a 13-page document that looks like a contract, but with no cost estimates. Instead, "to be determined" was listed nearly 24 times. A lawyer for Bulmer Restoration says that's common for emergency services because there's no reasonable way or enough time to know the extent of the damage. Former state lawmaker Chris Edwards disagrees.
That should be like one of the biggest red flags. If these are professional contractors, they should be able to estimate everything on that contract.
Edwards reviewed our investigation and was amazed that other Bulmer customers also got the same vague contract and lien notice as Julia.
Infuriating and disgusting, because people like this make the good contractors look bad.
On the Clark County Recorder's website, 13 Investigates found Bulmer Restoration has filed hundreds of liens against Las Vegas homeowners since 2014.
Any process can be abused, and this one obviously is being abused.
Does it appear as though the Contractors Board had the opportunity to prevent there being so many victims?
Yes. I mean, they tell me that if you have 5 or 6 liens in your career as a contractor, that's a lot. When this guy's going above 20, 30, 50, what are they waiting for? I mean, this is a simple, there's something going wrong here, because this is so far out of the norm that it's just not right.
After our investigation aired, Bulmer finally released the lien against Julia's house, but not until June.
So I literally had to live in fear for 7 months that Bulmer is going to foreclose on my home during the pandemic.
And now, a new fear.
Yes, actually the contractor board stated that he may actually record another lien, so.
A new search of the Clark County Recorder's database shows after our investigation aired, Bulmer Restoration released about 40 liens, including Julia's, but many remain active. While it doesn't appear that any new liens have been filed since the pandemic began, we obtained documents showing Bulmer Restoration has pursued legal action this year, suing homeowners in district court.
there is a very targeted effort from that contractor to place liens on the homes instead of finish contractor work. So that involves more entity than just the contractor board, I believe.
Edwards agrees, saying state law governing the contractors board needs to change.
But I think with information like this, the legislature needs to take some action to beef up the agencies that we have that are supposed to be protecting the consumers, but also write the laws so that there is teeth in the laws.
He says the current system of recording liens may also need an overhaul so the recorder's office can have some oversight. Now, all it takes to get a lien is a $42 filing fee.
The volume of liens and those hundreds of numbers, that in and of itself doesn't raise a red flag for anybody.
And that's insane. I mean, how can it not? You know, in any kind of a real world, seeing that number of complaints, that number of liens by one company has got to be the biggest red flag possible.
Do these cases make it seem like the state is falling down on the job?
I think I would have to say yes.
He says new laws should be an easy fix,
This should be a no-brainer in the next legislative session.
especially in a state reeling from the economic effects of an ongoing pandemic.
The last thing a homeowner wants to know is that there is a lien on their property and they can attempt to foreclose.
Bulmer's attorney says the company has helped many customers in Las Vegas recover from water damage emergencies, and they're always open to a reasonable settlement if customers are unable to pay their bill. Bulmer restoration owner Eduardo Arredondo wouldn't talk to us on camera for our first reports, and he still won't now. His attorney sent us a lengthy letter, and we've posted it in its entirety on our website at ktnv.com. Darcy Spears, 13 Investigates.